And I want to talk to you briefly about Christmas. Because Christmas is one of the most dangerous inventions of the church. I say it one more time. Christmas is one of the most dangerous inventions of the church. God never said, do Christmas.
All right.
Christmas is a church idea.
All right.
What happened was, and I did a little research, so anybody ever heard of this disease called seasonal, hold on a second, I wrote it down. You're going to be a little shocked. Seasonal affective disorder. It's a disease called seasonal affective disorder. It's a disease. And I believe that that disease has disguised itself, but it shows up in people's lives. And this is what the doctors call it. If you go to the doctor around now and you say you're feeling some kind of way, they'll probably say you have SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And I'm not making this up, it's now a disease. And if you spell a word, it says sad. The doctors now have a disease called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. Now, as real Christians, you need to know your ancestry. Now, I want to say this, and don't get mad at me. If you get offended, just turn the cat around the other way. Never let your culture dictate your Christianity. Amen. I don't care if you're from Africa, India, Europe, wherever you're from. That's where your biological ancestry is. But you have an ancestry in God. Amen. And it goes back to either you being a Hebrew. And if you live in America, you trace it to being a pilgrim. You don't trace your ancestry back to the jungles, Amen. The desert, Amen. The forest, the mountains. Come on now. You trace your ancestry from here. Amen. And I did a little research, and so I asked, my friend, my research analysis, Google. I said, so how did the Pilgrims celebrate Christmas? They didn't celebrate Christmas. You have to understand, Christmas is a European seasonal affective disorder remedy. Wow. Christmas was added as an antidote to the crazies. What happens is this, how many of you here are smart? And in the summertime you don't go crazy. Your body gets the chemicals it needs and you chill out. But in the winter your body begins to coagulate, or it might be the wrong word for medical, and you start to feel cold and sometimes needy, and you just don't want to do anything, you just want to lay there. What happened was, back in the day, during this time of year, they had a day called the winter solstice, which was the longest night and the shortest day. And so what happens is, when people don't know God, devils talk to you and they begin to give you ideas. I remember watching Dora. Okay. Don't laugh. You have a little child, they might watch Dora too. They had a little red rooster. And Red Rooster was asleep. And they was upset. They said, we gotta wake up Red Rooster so he can wake up the sun. Nobody saw that episode? So they had to wake up Red Rooster because they figured if Red Rooster doesn't croak, the sun won't come up. See, people believe things like that. So in Europe, where it was cold, and it was a short day and a long night, they began to worship with hopes that the sun would come back. And that's where these pagan rituals started. Those gifts that you're handing out at Christmas, that's what they were given. They would give out gifts. The Yule log, cut little gingerbread men. Because they was, the Roman society would sacrifice people during that time. They would just be lawless, and everybody would just have a debauchery. So the Catholic Church, trying to circumvent the culture of his day, created a mass, and they called it the Christ Mass. In other words, we're going to celebrate the birth of Christ on that day with hopes of converting them. And how many of you know you cannot paint doo-doo and change the smell? Nobody heard it. You cannot cover up mess.
That's right.
You have to remove mess.
Amen.
So even though they had converts, they could not change the heart of something that was in them historically. And so the Catholic Church instituted Christmas, and it has gone throughout all the world to the point Christians are upset that Santa has bumped Jesus out.
Right.
Well, why are you upset? It was never Jesus' day.
Amen. Amen.
It's always been a pagan day. And what happens is when believers are not strong in their faith, they would do the same thing that church did. They would try to use Christmas as a witnessing tool. So you see, the same error that they made however long ago, the church is still making the same error. Trying to use Christmas to lead people to Christ. No, it was trying to cover up the mess. And that mess was in people, and it will never be covered. So it makes no sense of the church getting upset when people are doing more for Santa than Jesus on Christmas. Why are you getting upset? It was never God's plan. It was man's plan. And so you find yourself getting upset when they're doing what they always do. And now this is all I'm trying to tell you. This came from Europe. You don't see them in China running around with reindeers and red men.
Amen. Amen.
And now this is something for intercessors to be praying about. They are really messing up the world with Christmas.
Yes, they are.
Because now they're sending Christmas presents to little kids in Africa. They don't need Christmas presents. What that's going to do is make them think that this day is a day that I get something. And they're going to turn into the mess that we are. Oh, think about it. Ask yourself how much of a mess you feel when you can't give a gift. You're fine in April when you don't buy nobody nothing. But Christmas time, it seems like you get sad if you can't give a gift. See, I want to tell you, it's bigger than you. This is an ancient spirit that has been riding along the church. Now, I'm not saying don't give gifts, but understand the undercurrent. If it's getting into the wrong hands, they will allow Santa, is that his name? Santa?
Oh, man.
Santa's Claus? He'll bump Jesus out. I went to see this play, and and everybody was loving the Satan and glory, and everybody, it was beautiful. They clapped for Satan, but soon the nativity came out. Everybody quiet. You have to understand the core of the human being. They don't want Jesus.
Yes.
And you have to understand that. But God, being faithful to you, before the foundation of the world, you're saved. Nobody over here. You could be running the forests of Ireland right now. Running climbing up some tree in Puerto Rico.
All right.
Swinging from a vine in Africa. Come on. You can be having your head in the dirt in the desert in Madagascar. But you're here in the house of God, saved because of the faithfulness of God. So that's why I say the danger of Christmas. Because everyone feels special if they get something. You're all special whether you get something or not. But you can't convince that to a person.
That's right. Wow.
Why can't we convince you? Because it's sad. Seasonal affective disorder. So I did a little research. I got 3 minutes. Don't steal that from me. I'm going to finish this today. And I used to wonder when I used to build skyscrapers, you know, I was a supplier of what they would call good spirits.
All right.
I used to come home Christmas with 20 bottles of liquor.
Come on now.
And they would love me, the liquor drinkers, because they only had was beer, but I had the good spirits.
Yeah.
And I wasn't saved, so I thought, hey, it's Christmas, they gave it to me with a ribbon, I'll give it to you with a ribbon. And they were like, nice. But now I realize
Amen.
it was to deaden the seasonal affective disorder.
Yes.
They get drunk because they're depressed. And so they're trying to get happy. It's called spreading Christmas cheer. Yo, Jesus, you want a drink? This one's for you, Lord. But you see, it's not, this is what you all need to understand. It is not indicative of everyone's culture.
Amen.
Call them down and call them in Australia or in Africa and ask them if they're having seasonal affective disorder. They'll say, no, we're on the beach. We're creating some disorder. So you see, these people in Europe had this issue. And the church tried to cover it up and get people saved. And what it did was it created a greater monster.
Yeah.
Ask yourself.
Yeah.
Don't you feel offended when people don't honor Jesus on Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, why? It has nothing to do with it. It was what the church issued. And it's like, you ever heard of Easter? Anybody heard of Easter? It was not one mistake, but it was one translation in the Bible that had rabbits bumping out Jesus again. Because the writer, instead of writing Passover, he wrote the word Easter.
Okay.
And it said Jesus was raised from the dead on Easter. It was supposed to be translated Passover. See, Easter is a real event where they had rabbits and it was all about fertility. And so when the church began to read Easter, they began to somehow allow infiltration. That's why you see rabbits. That's why Easter comes up. You don't see them selling empty tombs. You don't ever go to the store and see, oh man, can I borrow empty tombs? It's Easter. It's Resurrection Sunday. You got empty tomb on sale? They got bunnies, eggs, everything to do with the goddess Esther. The fertility god. I said fertility god. The fertility god. Not Esther, Asta, whatever her breastless name was. So you understand? So as Christians, God has been faithful to you. But have you been faithful to Him? Because we are in a somewhat European influenced society. And so we need to be careful that we don't let the European pagan roots get into your Christian lifestyle.
Amen.
All right.